excited about the Skylight's 2013-2014 season, my first season with the company. When I was asked to become the artistic director of the Skylight Music Theater, it was a really interesting opportunity for me because it's the only theater I know of in the country that performs every kind of musical theater, from opera to musical theater to operetta. And when you have that kind of strength, I thought it would be really interesting to find a way to take each of these types of shows and talk about one aspect of our own humanity. We as performers don't perform musical theater or opera because we just like performing. That's one part of it, but the other side of it is that each of these shows represents some aspect of our greater humanity. And so the very first season we decided to go and talk about revolution. And every show in the season is going to cover an aspect of revolution because we feel that it's a really important aspect of humanity. I mean, if we think back to 1776 and America's revolution and search for freedom, we could go to India and their search for freedom under the British Raj. And so we thought that given the events like the Arab Spring recently and so on, that it would be a great way of approaching our season. The very first show in the 2013-14 season is Beethoven's Fidelio. I couldn't be more excited about the way we're approaching this show, because we're setting it in India and choreographing it as if it were a Bollywood film. While that sounds like a really odd idea for Beethoven, I think it's going to be a really incredible way of approaching the production. The artistic inspiration for the show is Raghava KK. I met Raghava a year ago, actually, and he is probably India's most important painter and artist, and he's also famous for having done 4 TED Talks internationally. And so to have someone of his level as the inspiration for the scenery, for the design of the show, was just such a huge opportunity. We're also going to have Deepa Devasena, who is a choreographer from Milwaukee. So we have a local Bollywood choreographer who's going to be doing the dance scenes for us. And I'll be directing and conducting. The show is really an important one to me because it was one of the first operas I ever saw, and I think the ideals that Beethoven embodied were so utterly fitting to a discussion of revolution. It begins with Florestan, who's imprisoned basically because he was exposing Don Pizarro's corruption. So we have a political prisoner falsely imprisoned. He's been missing for 2 years, and the love of his life, his wife Leonora, disguises herself as a prison guard and takes employment at the prison in the hopes of finding Florestan and breaking him out. So not only do we talk about revolution, but we have the ultimate redemption of Florestan through love. And for me, that's such an incredible message. Both this idea that we yearn for freedom as people, but also the final redemption that we find is through love. And with the incredible artistic team we have coming together on this, it's going to be a very interesting Bollywood Beethoven.
Hi, I'm Raghava, and I'm an artist, and I try and reinvent myself every couple of years. And the way I do that is I try and go outside my comfort zone and try and learn from a different art form, like food, for example. I worked with a famous chef to try and create a kinesthetic language between art and taste. And similarly, I've done that with music, with dance, and now with opera. Firstly, I love the story of Fidelio. I think it's really interesting because it's about, I love the tension it creates, and I think it is this, as Viswa said, it is the drama that and the tension between, and there's disguise, there's deceit, there's anger, there's frustration, there's isolation, it's got everything that a good drama has, but unfortunately it's not as accessible to people my age. So what would be, I was excited that I could actually be a part of something that makes it a little more accessible through the Bollywood nature. And every rendition of Fidelio I've seen and I've looked up remains dark, grey tones, and pretty monotonous in, I probably get into trouble saying that, but you know what I mean? It's been extremely dark. And I think that Fidelio really has a spectrum that's underexplored. it has this range of emotions. It makes you happy, sad, and all at the same time. So that's really what we're trying to achieve in a new way. The complexity of human behavior is exhibited in emotions. And I think we are in a time when we flatten things out. We flatten information, knowledge, and we want things really quickly given to us. And I think when you look at Beethoven's Fidelio, it's extremely complex. And I feel it's really exciting. I think it's important to understand human nature through complexity. And we don't find contemporary work to really reflect the kind of complexity that Beethoven so successfully, even the overture for me is just so, the pum pum is just so exciting. So I think that it's important because we need to access it. We need to understand human behavior in its complexity. My vision for the scenes of Fidelio is firstly to introduce a lot of color and a lot of I imagine this to be like a pop-up book where things are flat but they come to life through the actors, through color, and they're layered, just like the music is. It's full of layers, and you can see through the layers, and there's a sadness that's always lingering in the set. So the way I see the set happening is it's fantastical. It's a fantasy world. It's Dr. Seuss meets Bollywood. It's a pop-up book. It's accessible. It's disarming, and I think it's really important to disarm the audience before you give them something as complex as Fidelio. There are moments where it's extremely powerful. I think comic pathos is really powerful, as opposed to just pathos or just comedy. It's somewhere in between. And what it also does is it allows the audience not to take themselves too seriously. And I think that's something we've left out in opera. And I think this is really exciting. It will bring in the comfort, the lightheartedness, because it's an extremely intense opera. You need to break it with some. So that's what I'm hoping that my sets can do, that it'll have those elements of relief, of association, of comic pathos, of symbolism. So I've created characters, animal characters that represent the characters in Fidelio, and there is this storytelling that's going parallel to Beethoven's Fidelio, and that's going to be shown just by light and symbols. So for example, when we're referencing Florestan, we keep showing this image of the tiger, and the tiger flashes, and eventually over the first two acts you start associating a symbol with a character. Even if he's not present, he's omnipresent. And so we have this parallel storytelling we're hoping to achieve through light and through visuals. The other thing that's really exciting for me is we're really excited to introduce some technology in Fidelio, because I think this new form of storytelling, it makes a new form of storytelling possible. So there is a form of technology where the moment is captured and presented in a really exciting way. I don't want to give away the fun parts, but it's not in your face. This is not about the technology. The technology plays a role in the storytelling, and I think it augments the experience of Fidelio, which you're so familiar with, and it could be really exciting. As an artist, for me, the role of the spectator has changed in my work, and I'm really excited to see how I can make Fidelio a little more interactive, where the sets and the characters are not separated. They really inform each other. in the form of storytelling, in the form of technology, in different ways, you'll find that that the characters and the sets and the music all really interact with each other to tell stories in multiple levels.